right, everybody, welcome to the show. I have a great one for you. So we're going to lead here in just a second with the real reason for the Tik Tok ban, which has now passed the House of Representatives. Its path in the Senate is unclear, but there's a lot to say already about the motivations behind this. It's not what you think, and it's not what most people are telling you. So I'll leave it at that. We'll jump into that in just a second. We also have a Trump bloodbath scandal. He said something during a rally about a bloodbath, and you have two very, very different interpretations of it coming from the right and the left. I'm going to break that all down for you. We have Bill Maher turning real time into smug time yet again. He tells Americans to, quote, cheer the fuck up. We have Netanyahu fuming at a CNN host. We have Alex Jones involved in a new and hilarious Twitter scandal. So sit back, relax, sip some lemonade, take it easy, and I'm going to go ahead and dive into it here. So let's kick it off with this. Oh, yeah, and by the way, everybody subscribe to the channel, all that, yada, yada, shameless plugs. Let's do it. The House of Representatives passed a bill that could lead to a TikTok ban if the Chinese owner refuses to sell it. Okay, so the thing that we're being told is, well, the reason why we have to do this is because China is spying on all Americans, and we can't have China spying on all Americans. We want to protect the privacy of Americans, and so that's why we can't have it. If the Chinese owner doesn't sell it, boom, gonzo, dunzo, no more TikTok. Now, there's a number of problems with that narrative. For one thing, the idea that the government actually cares about your privacy is beyond laughable. I mean, for example, going back to the early 2000s, we had the Patriot Act, which totally got rid of your constitutional protection from unreasonable search and seizure and your privacy protections. Now, not only that, but Trump signed a bill when he was in office in his first term. Well, he only had one term, so it can only come from his first term. And it was a bill that polled in the single digits approval rating. It was like 6% or 9%, somewhere in there. And the bill made it so that any company has the right to now sell your data to any third party that wants to buy it. Deeply, deeply unpopular bill. He did it. So in other words, the point I'm trying to make is corporations are spying on you left and right as a matter of standard operating procedure, and the United States government is spying on you left and right as a matter of standard operating procedure. So the idea that now, oh my God, China and they're spying, so we have to do something about this, immediately there should be red flags in your mind. And you're thinking, wait, hold on now. Is that the real reason why you're trying to do this? So let's go ahead and dive into some of the specifics, and then I'll give you the reality. So this is in the Associated Press. The House on Wednesday passed a bill that will lead to a nationwide ban of the popular video app TikTok if its China-based owner doesn't sell its stake, as lawmakers acted on concerns that the company's current ownership structure is a national security threat. So let's just pause on that real quick, because the United States is currently arming and funding a literal genocide in Gaza. That's what we're doing. To me, that seems like a national security threat. If you're arming and funding a genocide, you're inviting backlash, or blowback, as the CIA calls it, where now we are more likely to be a target of attacks because we're aiding in the ethnic cleansing and genocide of an entire population, and by the way, pissing off Muslims all over the world. And then, of course, there's going to be some percentage of them that are extremists, that are terrorists, that might actually take direct action as a result of what we're doing here. So I love the idea that it's not a security threat to arm and fund a genocide, but it is a security threat to have an app that teens use to post short videos. Come on, man. This is getting ridiculous. So the bill passed by a vote of 352 to 65. 352 to 6. It overwhelmingly passed. Now it's going to go to the Senate. We don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. They say TikTok has more than 170 million American users. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Chinese technology firm ByteDance Limited. The lawmakers contend that ByteDance is beholden to the Chinese government, which could demand access to the data of TikTok's consumers in the U.S. whenever it wants. The worry stems from a set of Chinese national security laws that compel organizations to assist with intelligence gathering. Now, by the way, I want to repeat something here because this is super important. Even if let's, for sake of argument, let's grant that what they're saying here is legitimate, that China can access your data via the channel that they're laying out here. Again, here's the problem with that. Even if you remove this from the conversation, China already can access your data and probably already have. Why? Because like I just described to you, Trump signed a bill to destroy all of your online privacy protections, a deeply unpopular bill that allows any company to sell your data to any other company or corporation. And so it doesn't take much for a corporation, a Chinese corporation, because remember, all these corporations are really multinational, to buy access to the data, and then they probably already have a direct line to the Chinese government if the Chinese government actually wants that data. So, in other words, look, the damage, the theoretical damage, is already done. So this doesn't add up. This doesn't make sense. This doesn't pass the smell test. It's not even close. So then, that begs the question, well, what the hell is the real reason why they're doing this? Guys, it's actually not that difficult to figure out. And in fact, in some articles, they've been laying it out crystal clear. So here, now let's go to the Times of Israel. Their headline is, Major U.S. Jewish Groups Backs Bipartisan Bill That Could See TikTok Banned. Jewish Federations of North America says it supports the proposed law due to concerns of anti-Semitism proliferating on the platform. So what really happened is this bill was floating around in the ether. This idea was floating around in the ether for a while now, and it never really picked up the steam that it needed. The idea of banning TikTok was already floated a while ago. And there was a little bit of debate and a little bit of discussion, but ultimately it sort of fell by the wayside and we moved on. It has been revived, and it happened recently. Why? Because in the wake of Israel's destruction of Gaza, TikTok has become a hotbed for the pro-Palestine perspective / anti-Israel perspective. And somebody did an analysis, and they found out that the overwhelming majority of the content on TikTok on this particular issue is pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel. Whereas, for example, there are some other social media outlets, say Facebook, where if you crunch the numbers on it, that's not the case. It's probably more pro-Israel than it is pro-Palestinian. So TikTok is overwhelmingly used by young people, and it's overwhelmingly pro-Palestine. Now, these people aren't idiots, man. They're not idiots. So what they did is they read the polls, and they found out, in fact, there's audio of Jonathan Greenblatt, the head of the ADL, talking about this, where he says, look, we don't have a liberal versus conservative problem. We don't have a red versus blue problem. This isn't about where you fall in the political spectrum. He says, we have a problem with old versus young. Old people overwhelmingly support Israel. Young people overwhelmingly are opposed to Israel. And he says, we really need to do something about this whole TikTok thing. We have a massive TikTok problem. That's almost a direct quote of what he said. He went on MSNBC and he was chastising and berating everybody in sight, saying, we need to do something about this TikTok thing. So boom, this bill gets resurrected. And guess what? The heaviest of the heavy hitters are involved, and they have a front row seat. AIPAC, lobbying heavy in this direction to crush TikTok. And that's at the heart of it. So in other words, it's not about China. It's not about China. That's the cover story. What it's really about is Israel. The Israel lobby is spending colossal amounts of money to fund politicians' campaigns, to back politicians, both in the Democratic and the Republican Party. And then when they pick up the phone and they make a call and they say, hey, this is a top concern for us, all of a sudden, would you look at that? It skips the line, and now it's one of the main things in the conversation, and it's already passed the House overwhelmingly. And as you can see, what those numbers reflect, it passed with crushing margins. What those numbers reflect is a lot of these politicians are on the take from AIPAC, and they don't want to buck them because then they lose more campaign contributions for the next cycle. So that's what we're witnessing. Look, I don't know what's going to happen in the Senate, but I'll tell you this. Follow the money is number one. But number two is, if these idiots think they can casually ban one of the most popular platforms for young people and not have a colossal backlash, they have another thing coming. I mean, look, young people are already disgusted by Joe Biden and his policy in Israel and Gaza, among other things, but that's probably the most important thing. And now you're going to add insult to injury and say, oh yeah, I'll also ban your favorite app casually. And by the way, some of the immense cope and deflection and obfuscation coming out of these people after there was a big backlash to it is, bro, it's not even really a ban, bro. It's not even really a ban. You guys are calling it a ban. It's not even really a ban, bro. Meanwhile, these same people, when they were first pushing the idea and saying they supported the idea, they called it a ban. And then after there was backlash, they moved the goalposts and they're like, this isn't even really a ban, bro. I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. It's so shameless. It's so shameless. And by the way, there are massive First Amendment concerns here too. This is a huge First Amendment issue. I mean, think about it, guys. The idea that the government could just casually, willy-nilly ban an entire massive social media app like it's nothing, well, that lays the precedent of them doing exactly that, which means what? Theoretically, Facebook could be on the chopping block, YouTube could be on the chopping block, there is nothing that is safe in theory that can muck up some moral panic over any of these particular platforms and then just totally shut them down. Which is incredibly authoritarian, if you ask me. Incredibly authoritarian. So I don't know, first of all, I don't know if it's going to pass the Senate, but I have bad feelings. And if it does pass the Senate, then it's hopefully there are constitutional challenges to it and they can be blocked from doing this. Because the idea that this is on the table is absurd. Guys, final point I want to make on this is this should drive all of you crazy. The fact that when the government says, oh my God, we want to help you. Oh my God, we want to protect you. Oh my God, we want to do something for you. They always fall on the side of, let's ban some shit. Let's stop you from even having the option of doing this shit. That's their idea of helping you, protecting you, looking out for your securities. Ban it, ban that, ban this, ban that, ban that. It's never oh my God, we really need to help these people. We really need to protect these people. Here, universal health care. Oh, would you look at that? 41% of Americans have medical debt. Well, we're going to go ahead and wipe out that medical debt because we really care about you. We really want to protect you. It's never here's a massive issue. Let's address it proactively and do some shit for you. It's always here's a massive issue that we made up, and now we're just going to ban stuff. That should drive you crazy because it is the laziest shit I've ever seen. And also, what they're saying is the reason is not even the reason. It's got nothing to do with China. Nothing at all. It has everything to do with Israel and the fact that they can't control the narrative anymore and they're panicking. By the way, 50% of Biden voters think what Israel is doing in Gaza is a genocide. 50%. This isn't a fucking fringe issue. It's not a fringe issue. This is something where the overwhelming majority of all Americans want a ceasefire. Not a fringe issue. So these guys are playing with fire by now trying to ban a super popular app because they don't like the narratives or the messages that are coming out of there. Well, that's called freedom. And if you don't like that, that's on you. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.